heroes acting out there on a silver screen. Come grab a seat, popcorn is on me.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
Hello, welcome to Meet Me at the Movies. I am Noel T. Manning II, coming to you courtesy of C19 TV, and I'm joined today by Mr. Thomas Manning. You hear the crowd in the background. I hear them clapping. They're glad Thomas Manning is joining. They would prefer you to spend some time with me than for me to be solo. And recently I've done some solo appearances, and I got to tell you, the critical acclaim is not too high for those solo appearances.
There were a few boos and jeers and hisses mixed into the crowd mix for that.
That's exactly right. I'm glad I didn't try to throw some kind of rally or something. Who knows who would show up for that and start throwing stuff at me.
You never know these days.
I know. Well, Thomas, really glad to have you always, man. Always good to see you on the show. And hopefully today we're going to be able to review some films. And after the break, we're going to have some interviews, including an interview with a filmmaker who had a film in reel-to-reel, but has done some pretty cool things in the world of Hollywood as well. So we're going to have Jeff Nichols on after the break, and maybe us, maybe somebody else. We'll have to wait and see. But Thomas, good to see you, man. Good to see you.
Yeah, happy to be here as always.
Well, it is FYC, so that is for your consideration season, or as we like to just call it, awards season. We are in that mix of getting a lot of films that we're going to be talking about that come awards time, when these are handed out in just a month or so, that you're going to be hearing a whole lot more. So we're going to give you the films before maybe you've heard about them. One of those is called Or Something. Yeah. Is that right? Or Something?
Yeah. So this actually is not an FYC film. It doesn't have distribution for this year yet, but it is on the film festival circuit right now. Played in Savannah, which a terrific film festival down there that I know a lot of our colleagues from the Southeast are annual visitors for that film festival. But the film is Or Something. It is directed by Jeffrey Scotty Schroeder and co-written by Mary Neely and Kareem Rama. And Mary and Kareem also star in the film. Very limited cast. This film is heavily reliant on the two performances of these two leads. And the entire film is basically an extended conversation between two people who have been brought together by happenstance, and they're forced to spend the day together, just traveling throughout New York City. They're both owed money by somebody, and but in order to get that money, well, they got to go all across the city, and these two people couldn't be more different. So you can imagine some of the dynamics of those conversations they have. And like I said, both lead performances, they have to be strong in order for this film to work, and I think they really do. Once again, that's Kareem Rama and Mary Neely. We're shown many different sides of New York City over the course of this single day. I think one of my favorite scenes, the two of them were just sitting on the ground, leaning against the wall in a pedestrian tunnel, and they're both exhausted, and they're just kind of revealing parts of their souls to each other in this conversation. And just a few hours earlier in the day, they never in 1,000 years could have seen, dialogue like this coming between them. Those discussions range from talking about gender dynamics to loneliness to faith and religion and questions of our place in the universe. So all of that, when the film is really tightly focused on that, I think that's when it really sings as a film. One thing that I do think holds it back slightly for me, it's an hour and 20 minutes. It's just over that feature length threshold. I felt like a couple of scenes might have been just a little bit extended too far in order to reach that threshold. And I don't think that was entirely necessary. I understand that's just kind of the dynamics of, that's just kind of the game that we play with feature films and qualifications and all those categories. But that is one thing I could pinpoint as something that kind of prevents this from being prevents it from just reaching its full
Yeah.
potential. I think it could have just been a little bit more compact, but generally, I think this is a film that features two beautiful lead performances, and it's very well written. And like I said, I love the different different visual aspects that we get to see within the city of New York City, and just kind of like a walking tour of the different boroughs in a way. So but
Yeah.
Or Something. I think I will give this a solid B, and I can see it
Okay.
definitely getting picked up for distribution here before too long.
Awesome. Solid B. The film is called Or Something. I tell you, Thomas, what I love about films like this, especially set across or set against the backdrop of New York, when you've got these characters that kind of connect. I love because you get a chance to see the power of human connection, the vulnerability, and also the impact of chance encounters. And I love that. And I think with a film like this, where you mentioned very limited cast, you can get some authentic dialogue. And in order for that to work, the chemistry's got to be there as well. And so it sounds like from everything you've said, all of those things really did click with this. It was just kind of that running time of stretching things out to hit that feature length that felt, maybe this would have been better as a short film, or not having to push it at that 70+ minute mark.
Right. Yeah. Precisely.
Good deal. Well, Thomas, let's switch the channel from film to TV, and let's talk about Netflix TV series, a limited series that is going to be releasing a little later this month. Got an advance on this, and want to share this with you. But I want to ask you this question. So, Thomas, imagine the scenario. Okay, you're a TV personality. All right. You decide you're going to take some vacation time because you want to write a book. You decide the perfect place to do this is kind of this cabin, almost in the middle of nowhere. But while you're there, you are a witness to a crime that includes a murder, and some criminals happen to stumble upon you while you stumble upon them. So what do you do, man? What do you do when that happens?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that exact same scenario has happened to me, not once but twice. Almost a third time. The third time I got out of it.
Well, the series that I'm talking about does look at that scenario, and it's called The Madness, and it explores these themes of conspiracy, survival, and also self-reckoning. Dives into kind of mistrust that society has in media and in truth, and also it explores the lengths that people are willing to go to uncover what truth really is, while at the same time questioning ideas of loyalty and who holds power. Who is it that ultimately holds the power? This series stars Emmy Award winner Coleman Domingo as Muncie Daniels, just an amazing acting talent, and it's also got a lot of just supporting cast, but he is the lead. He is the one that drives this particular project. And his character, he's a media pundit who kind of finds himself in the middle of this mystery, and he's at the center of it, and he's the sole witness to this murder, but he also ends up becoming the prime suspect. And there's a web of conspiracy that his name is in the middle of. It's really a fascinating series, and it explores really high-stakes action. It's a psychological drama, and also looks at the fears of betrayal and misinformation. And we are in a world right now of misinformation, so it's such a relevant series. It's fresh, it's unique, it's a little different. My challenges with it, really the only challenge I had with this that was kind of what you talked about, the length of that Or Something film. My thing with this, it's not about the length, because it is a limited series. I'm glad they were able to stretch this out, and it is on Netflix. But what I had problems with is Muncie Daniels, when his character is being shown on screens in Times Square. He's walking around Times Square, and he doesn't think about changing his identity from like shaving his beard, or he does put on some different clothes while he's being chased and while he's kind of a fugitive. But he doesn't shave his beard. He doesn't do other things to change his identity, and he makes some choices that I don't think were the most brilliant of choices. But again, Thomas, I haven't been in that situation. You said you've been in it twice, so maybe you would have made some of those same choices. Those are really the only problems I have with this. The release date for this is November 28th, so you still, I'm kind of ahead of the game here. But it's a series well worth checking out if you're into those kinds of themes, and it is called Madness, and I'm giving this. A B, kind of bordering on B minus, but well worth checking out. Madness on Netflix. Questions, thoughts?
Yeah. So the reason he didn't change, he didn't really go through an extensive disguise. He was actually took a play out of my playbook because that's what they're expecting. They're expecting you to change your appearance.
Okay.
So
all right.
you got to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps ahead. So
okay.
That's why you don't change your appearance, because they're like, all right, there's no way this guy would be dumb enough to just look exactly the same. So
okay,
yeah.
But it did work. It was engaging, and it's one of those. As soon as an episode ends, you are ready for that next episode. It leaves you wanting more, and it does wrap up pretty well also. So I don't feel like it rushed. Kind of the ending, I felt like it did a nice job. So it does wrap up this storyline. Don't know if we're going to see this character coming back or not, but the Madness on November the 28th. Well, Thomas, some of the things that happen in a TV series when people are being chased, you might get like your kneecap busted, especially if you are, there's mobsters involved. So I think that's a great segue to the next film that looks at maybe cultural identity, rebellion, and political defiance, possibly?
Wow, you were right on the money there. We're talking about the film, as it so happens to be titled Kneecap, written and directed by Rich Papiet. And this is based on a true story about the Irish hip-hop trio called Kneecap. And the three members of that group, they wrote this film, and they're starring in this film as themselves, and they fit perfectly. They feel like they could be professional actors. If I wouldn't have been shocked if watching it, you could have fooled me in saying, yeah, this is professional actors playing these people, but no, they're playing themselves. So I think that speaks to just the incredible talent that they have and that's on display in this film. And I think this is their story, they're telling it, and I think it's poetic that, here they are sharing their story about keeping the Irish language alive, and they are doing this in one of the first major Irish language films that's, reached this status. It's the first Irish language film to premiere at Sundance. You've got, people like Michael Fassbender in this, and this it's a story about this hip hop trio who is intent on keeping the Irish language alive and well as it's in danger of dying. And I think this really paints a portrait of how language is ingrained into our identity as a human race. So I think just really really energetic and fast paced and just really solid film across the board.
Yeah, this is a film, Thomas, that was released back in, I guess, August initially for U.S. audiences. Premiered at Sundance. And a little bit of trivia, did you know that this is the first Irish language film to win the Audience Award at Sundance?
Wow, yeah, I didn't realize that part. I knew it had that Sundance history, but didn't realize it was an award winner there. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, when you look at some of the critical landscape out there of how people are looking at this film, how critics are looking at this film, Variety and The Guardian both really praised this, kind of like you did. They said they love the humor, the political commentary, and the energy. And the performances of the band members really added this kind of authenticity to an edge of this film, making it a little bit more edgy, and really celebrates the spirit of Northern Ireland's ceasefire generation. All those things tend to echo, I guess, what you're feeling.
Yeah, exactly. And I think another unique thing about it really captures that relationship between these two best friends who are about my age, but the third member of their group is he's a music teacher at like a high school who is probably in his 40s. So he's from that generation preceding them, and then he comes in and we get to see that dynamic between those different generations interacting. And I think that's another element where this film really succeeds. And once again, it's just coming from a very real place. These are real people just telling the stories of their lives. And I think that's how it connects with audiences, is because we can feel that authenticity.
What is your rating for Kneecap, Thomas?
Yeah, I'll give a solid B to Kneecap as well.
Okay, solid B for Kneecap, and it does come from Sony Pictures Classics. Thomas, we're going to take a quick intermission. We're going to come back. We've got a couple of interviews. Who are we going to bring back with us?
I think we've got Jeff Nichols and perhaps Nicholas Hoult as well. Maybe a third guest, but I don't know. We might be crunched on time for that, but we'll see.
All right, so stick around after this quick intermission. We'll be right back with more Meet Me at the Movies.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch a flick?
Cakes and cookies, toys and gifts, Christmas at your fingertips.
It's the shopping event of the season, the Southern Christmas Show, November 14th through 24th at the Park Expo and Conference Center. Celebrate the 12 days of Christmas, a countdown of Yuletide cheer brimming with festive decor and seasonal magic. Buy tickets at southernchristmasshow.com.
Let's go to the Southern Christmas Show.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch a flick?
Hello, welcome back to Meet Me at the Movies. Noel T. Manning II here with Thomas Manning. Appreciate you sticking around because we've been teasing and previewing a little thing called some interviews. And Thomas, we've continued to try to bring interviews to our Meet Me at the Movies audience over the years. And last year, you got connected to the Critics' Choice Association. You became a member, and you've been doing interviews before that, but you've discovered that with this Critics' Choice Association membership, you get access to a few more interviews than maybe you used to with some big time folks as well.
Yeah, so we get these press conference opportunities where we're not directly on camera speaking to the talent, but we have moderators that we submit questions to, and if we're lucky enough, sometimes the moderators choose our questions to ask. And so we got a couple of those here. And one of those recently was with Jeff Nichols, the director of The Bike Riders. And, one thing about me, I'm going to do my research if I'm going to be interviewing someone about a film. And if I can manage to ask a question that makes their eyes bulge out of their head, I will ask that question every time. And you'll see one of those here as we talk with Jeff Nichols about The Bike Riders and maybe reference a senior student film of his from the UNC School of the Arts that was a Reel-to-Reel Film Festival Award winner as well.
I want to get to some of our questions that have been submitted. Jeff, let me just continue with you. Thomas Manning of the Critics' Choice Association. You've had a fascination with vehicles in film for your whole career, going back to your UNC School of the Arts senior film, Noble Chrome Pirates. Can you pinpoint a specific origin of this interest in capturing the movement of vehicles? He knows a lot about your career, that's for sure.
Wow. You might know more about my career than I do. It is only mildly terrifying that someone references my senior student film.
This might mean we need to do Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Jeff. How do you feel about that? I don't really want to do a musical.
I'm obviously suited for it. Well, it's a great question. I mean, the truth is, I think, Noble Chrome Pirates was kind of this. It was a short film that was steeped in the look of greasers and kind of 50s cars. So in that sense, it was less about maybe the vehicles themselves and the time period. I was basically ripping off Johnny Cash's song A Piece at a Time, and it was about a group of friends that were stealing car parts to build their dream car. And then once they got it, they all fought over it. And so the two brothers that ran the group put it on some train tracks and had it run over by a car. because they'd rather have their friends in their car. I suppose, yeah, I don't really think consciously about vehicles too much. I know Midnight Special was a chase film, so that's a genre film. I think I probably think about genre more than I think about the actual mode of transportation. The truth is I didn't really grow up in motorcycle culture. I learned how to ride when I was writing the script, so I wouldn't feel like a complete fraud. But I'm mainly drawn to the people that these cultures, attract, because it's really the people at the center of these things that get me excited more so than the vehicles. I will say this though, standing in the center of 40 period correct Harley Davidsons, it's a pretty cool feeling. It definitely made me understand part of the allure of all it.
All right, Thomas, I absolutely loved the look on his face when that question came to him, and I loved his answer. And you're right, you've always been one of these guys that loves to do the research and loves to maybe pull a question out of a hat that filmmakers typically wouldn't get a chance to answer. So any final thoughts you want to make sure you share on the Bike Riders or that particular interview with Jeff Nichols?
Oh, well, just generally, The Bike Riders is a movie that I don't think nearly enough people saw earlier this year. And I think it's one that we should all seek out. Jodie Comer was also in that conversation, as you saw, and her performance in that was one of my favorite actress performances of the year. I think she's been really interesting in the past few years. She's had performances in male-dominated movies where I walked away thinking back to her performance more than anybody else's. The Last Duel a few years ago, the Ridley Scott film, was a similar case as The Bike Riders. So, Jodie Comer, The Bike Riders, big fan of it all. So.
Well, Thomas, you also got a chance to interview another filmmaker, one that I've interviewed previously for a movie called Midway, Nicholas Hoult. And this particular film that you're going to talk about is called The Order, and this was another one of those virtual press conferences that you got a chance to submit the question. And when we do this, Thomas, we never know if our question is going to come up or not with these press conferences. But when they do, it really is one of these just moments. You just kind of have this feel-good tingle that goes throughout your whole body.
Yeah, instant dopamine rush whenever you hear, this question is from Thomas or Noah Manning from the Critics' Choice Association. So, I got to ask a question of Nicholas Hoult about The Order. This is based on a true story and takes place in the Pacific Northwest in the 1980s. It's about this group of white supremacists who are basically creating or trying to create an uprising, and then there's an FBI agent played by Jude Law who is on the case. So it's basically a game of cat and mouse between Jude Law's FBI agent and Nicholas Hoult's character, based on real life people. And I got to ask a question here to Nicholas, which you will hear here in just a moment.
This next question is from CCA member Thomas Manning. Nicholas, for you, as you've kind of certainly alluded to here, this is a dark, dangerous charisma that Bob Matthews has. And you capture that so well in a really pivotal scene where he gives a speech at the church. How do scenes like that, one, challenge you as an actor, and what were some key decisions that you made to find that more charismatic side of Bob Matthews?
I don't think charisma is something that I ever settingly try to play. I think that's something that if someone describes a character as charismatic, I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I think with Bob, it's something that through the research and process of learning about him and trying to transform into him, like even then hearing about when you got sick, that's how you physically found him. For Bob, it was something that I knew he didn't drink. I knew he took care of himself and weightlifted, and it was very much about nature and the outdoor lifestyle. So it was all about that, where I stopped drinking and I was getting really fit and taking care of myself and felt pure. Even though his brain and his internal thoughts aren't pure, he feels pure and part of the earth and nature and all these things. So that's digressing. Sorry, but the speech was interesting because I did find a recording of Bob giving a speech that was kind of similar to the one in the script, and they're documented in the book, The Silent Brotherhood, as well. So I'd go through and read the full speeches, because this is obviously a condensed version, and even the chant at the end of that was something that I found. And then said to Justin and Zach, I was like, hey, this motto that they have, defeat never, victory forever. I was like, I think that could be powerful for the end of this speech in terms of how we end that scene, this rallying war cry. But that being in that scene was actually quite terrifying. It was because up until then, what we've discussed about these characters and Bob is there's also this external thing that he's pushing in terms of like community and family and all this kind of wonderful warmth he's giving in terms of trying to create this community and accept
a place for people to a refuge.
That feel lonely or isolated or need help and feel like the state aren't taking care of them, whatever it might be. So he's providing that. And so quite a few of the scenes before that speech, we're focusing on that and creating this camaraderie between me and all the group. And then suddenly you're put into that hall and you are giving a hate speech. And the crazy thing about it, I remember doing the first take and everyone getting involved. And we had brilliant supporting actors throughout that day and the whole cast. And it was one of those where they called cut and it was terrifying. It was honestly, being in that room was something where you were like, oh, it felt powerful in a horrible way, where Justin was kind of shocked. I think everyone was kind of shocked by it, and he went cut, and that was like, we were kind of like, oh, that's it, and that's scary, but that's what it is and should be. And it was funny because I remember George, one of the actors in the group, said he could see my vein pulsing. He was like, it's weird because you were so still. And there was something about Bob as a character I felt like because he's planned his whole trajectory in life and what his ultimate goal is and accepted his fate in many ways, there was a calmness and a distilled directness, and he's always kind of focusing on everyone else. But internally, all of this kind of crazy darkness and emotion and manipulation going on constantly and prey in front of him. And my vein, he said he could just see my vein in my neck, like pulsating. I could feel all that internally, but in that moment was actually not externally trying to convey that. So I don't know if that kind of answers the question, maybe.
All right, Thomas, thanks for sharing those interviews with Jeff Nichols and Nicholas Hoult. It's hard to say those two names back to back without stuttering, but really appreciate you doing that. The films The Bike Riders and The Order. The Order. All right, Thomas, any final thoughts or comments you want to make sure you share before we wrap things up?
Yeah, well, I just really appreciated that Nicholas was very enthusiastic about talking about his vein popping out on his neck. That was a memorable moment. And, as someone who occasionally has veins popping out of his neck, I get it. I get it.
All right. Well, we do appreciate these interviews and appreciate the reviews that we've been able to share with you, our audience as well. And as we say, we know you've got other things you can do. So when you take the time to be with us, we do not take it for granted. We appreciate you. We do encourage you to just continue to explore the films that are out there and explore the positivity that they can bring you on and off screen and how you can engage with others and the like. I am Noel T. Manning II for Thomas Manning, and we appreciate you spending time with us on C19 TV's Meet Me at the Movies, and until next time, that is a wrap.
Many films to view until we meet again. Next time we see you, we'll gladly fill you in. We'll tell about the happy and the sad ones. We'll talk about the good ones and the bad ones. Many films to view till we meet again.